We laid siege to Fort William, but without any artillery worthy of the name. We had only 4 small field pieces which scarcely made any impression on the walls, while the enemy within the fort had heavy cannon which swept all our approaches. The garrison consisted of about 400 men, well supplied with provisions and ammunition, and supported by their ships in the bay, which bombarded us continually. Our trenches were wretchedly constructed, for our men were unused to sieges, and the ground was rocky and hard. Every shot from the fort brought death among us, while we could make no return of consequence. The besieged fired red-hot balls into the houses of the town, and soon reduced them to ashes. In this manner we remained for several weeks, losing men daily, without being able to do the enemy the least harm. Our officers grew dispirited. The Highlanders, unused to such warfare, murmured loudly, and at length the siege was abandoned, to the great satisfaction of all. Thus ended an enterprise undertaken against my opinion, and which, like many others in this unfortunate war, was commenced without plan and abandoned without honour.
The rebels sat down before Fort William on the 20th of March and opened their trenches with great noise, though very ill conducted. They had but 4 small cannon, which they fired incessantly but to no effect, as their shot scarce entered halfway into the walls. We, on our part, were well provided, and our guns played briskly upon their works. We had the assistance also of the ships in the bay, which threw shot and shell into the rebels' camp. Many times they were forced to quit their trenches in confusion, and we could perceive them carrying off their slain. They made several attempts to bring up mortars, but our fire prevented them from fixing any with effect. Their shot did us little damage, while our red-hot balls set fire to the houses of Maryburgh, Fort William's town, which soon lay in ruins, depriving the rebels of their cover. Their Highlanders showed no liking for the duty of a siege. They murmured and skulked off daily. After 3 weeks of fruitless endeavour, they raised the siege on the 3rd of April, leaving behind some of their artillery and many dead. Thus His Majesty's fort was preserved, and the rebels met with another repulse, to the great credit of the garrison.
March 20th, 1746. The rebels appeared in force before the fort this morning, being computed at near 2,000 men, chiefly of the Camerons and Appin Stewarts. They took post upon the rising ground above the town of Maryburgh and began throwing up a line to cover their batteries. We made ready all guns upon the ramparts, and the seamen aboard His Majesty's sloop. Baltimore stood to their quarters. They fired several cannon in the afternoon, but their shot fell short or bounded harmlessly against the walls. We gave them brisk fire from our great guns, which made them keep a respectful distance. March 22nd. The rebels continued their approaches, labouring by night in the rocks and frozen ground, but their works are ill-contrived, and the men plainly have little notion of siege practice. We can hear them shouting and quarrelling among themselves. Their cannon, 4 small pieces of about 3-pound shot, do no more than chip the stones. The Baltimore and the bomb vessel, Serpent, threw shells amongst them this evening, setting fire to several huts they had built in the fields. We could see their Highlanders running in confusion. March 24th. They began to throw shells at us from a mortar planted behind a hill to the eastward, but our fire from the rampart and the ships was so heavy they could not long keep their men at the work. 1 shell burst in the fort, but did no damage. March 27th. The rebels' gunners tried to fire red-hot balls into the fort, but wanting proper furnaces they made little of it. We on our side heated shot and fired into the town, which burnt very fiercely. Most of Maryburgh now lies in ashes, and the rebels have lost their best cover. March 30th. They made another attempt to advance their trenches, but our shells fell so thick that they were forced to abandon them. We saw them carrying off many wounded. A deserter who came in told us their men are dispirited, their powder near spent, and their provisions short. The Highlanders, unused to this kind of fighting, would rather be plundering than digging. April 1st, a strong gale in the bay prevented the ships from assisting us today, yet the rebels fired scarce a shot. It is said that some of their leaders, Lochiel among them, are for drawing off, their people being sick of the business. April 3rd, at dawn the enemy were seen retreating up the glen, leaving behind 2 small cannon, several barrels of powder and many tools. We sallied out and destroyed their remaining works. The ground was thick, strewn with the carcasses of cattle they had slaughtered for food, and several of their dead still unburied. Thus ended the siege after 14 days of firing. Our loss is trifling, 2 men killed, 4 wounded. We gave them continual annoyance by land and sea, and the place is preserved in good condition. The rebels, I am told, have marched northwards towards Inverness, but the spirit of their army is broken. The garrison behaved with the greatest courage, the sailors showing equal zeal. Had the enemy been possessed of proper artillery, the matter might have been more serious. But as it was, they never had the least chance of success. The fort remains firm in His Majesty's hands, a standing proof of loyalty amidst these wild hills.
When we came before Fort William, we found it a far stronger place than we had been told, with cannon enough to sweep every approach. Our own guns were small and made little noise upon the walls. The ships lying in the loch fired upon us day and night, so that we could scarce stand to our works for a moment together. The ground was stony and hard, and the Highlanders had no skill for digging or for carrying on trenches. Many of them slipped away to their homes, saying the business was hopeless. Our powder ran short, and the officers could not bring the men again to the batteries. After losing several good lads for no gain at all, we quitted the place in great discontent, leaving 2 of our cannon behind us. It was a bitter sight, for we had undertaken the siege with great spirit. But the fort beat us at every turn, and the ships hurt us more than the garrison